Are you wondering if your student is a first generation student? You may have seen that this could possibly lead to more money if that's the case. Or perhaps you're wondering if they might be considered for special programs through a university if they are a first generation student. If that's the case, then I'm here to tell you that actually there are a lot of great opportunities for those that are considered first generation. And so in this video, I want to explain what makes a student be considered first generation, what makes them eligible, and give you some specific examples of where to find these scholarships. Now, I love this topic because actually one of our team members was a first generation student. She had a single mom who never went to school, and so when she went to college, she not only got money through other scholarships as well as FAFSA, but she did receive some money based on being first generation. So this is something that we have seen firsthand. Hey there, my name is Jocelyn Pearson, founder of the Scholarship System and Debt Free Degree Lab, and we redefine paying for college to help families build strong financial futures. The goal here is to get through college without having your student mortgage their future. And one of the primary strategies we focus on is scholarships. That is how I paid for my education, and that's how we've helped thousands of families across the nation pay for their educations. So one of those categories is what we're talking about today, first generation scholarships. Now make sure you hit subscribe because every single week I'm giving a new strategy on paying for college without student loan debt, and you will want to combine other strategies along with this one. Let's go ahead and jump in. Now, paying for college is challenging for all families, really. But for those with parents who did not go to college themselves, it can be especially overwhelming and confusing because there are so many different parts that go into paying for college. So many different acronyms like FAFSA, COA, EFC, SAI, the list goes on. And so this can be a little bit challenging for families. Now, schools recognize this, and part of the way to assist students like that is to give some sort of benefit, some sort of perk because they're first generation. Now, a lot of times this comes with a monetary benefit, but sometimes, actually, I would say a lot of times, it also comes with some sort of additional support because the chances of a first generation student not making it through college are a little bit higher than those who have family members that have gone through college before to guide them through this. I'm going to share more examples of specific benefits to those who are first generation in just a little bit. Now, you want to make sure that you and your student are aware of this criteria. If you think that your student is eligible, you absolutely want to confirm with the university, but also watch this video and make sure you check all the boxes because there are also some private scholarships, which I'll share in just a moment. But ultimately, the biggest criteria for first generation students is that they are first generation. So let's go ahead and break down what that means. So different schools and different organizations might define this differently, which can make it a little difficult. So in my opinion, if they are possibly first generation, it's worth reaching out. But that said, sometimes it can just be that neither of their parents received a bachelor's degree. In that case, even if parents received an associate's, it does not matter. It's a bachelor's. Also, it could be if they did not receive an associate's degree. So that's a little bit more specific. So they couldn't have a 2-year or a 4-year degree. There are some cases where your siblings would make you ineligible. Now, this is a little bit less common, but it could be that not only can your parents not have degrees, but also siblings cannot have degrees either. Now, one of the more broad ones that are a little bit more difficult for students to qualify is if they say that neither parents nor siblings have ever enrolled or attended college. Typically, they've had to have received the degree to really eliminate a student from this criteria of being a first generation student. But sometimes they may say, even if they've attended, then your student is not eligible. Now, lastly, it might be, say you are a parent going back to school, there may be an even broader criteria where it says no parents, no siblings, and no children could have obtained a degree nor attend college. So as I described this, it kind of went from the most easy one to qualify for, where the only thing that would knock them out of the running would be a 4-year bachelor's degree actually finished, all the way down to even if anyone around you has stepped foot in college, then that makes a student ineligible. So you want to find out which criteria meets your student's school requirements or any kind of private scholarship requirements. Now, in some cases, which I'm going to show you an example in just a moment, there might be additional requirements beyond just being first generation. So sometimes it can be income level based on poverty levels. It could be submitting FAFSA. It could be having to be enrolled full time. You can't be part time in order to receive the money. There could be things like it has to be for a bachelor's degree, no other kind of degree. So there might be other criteria in addition to just the first generation criteria. So this is why it's important to look into that school and that scholarship's specific list. Now, comment below, are you a first generation student or is your student a first generation student? Feel free to explain your situation and we can take a look and let you know if we think that you'd qualify. Okay, so let's get into specific types of monies. So first and foremost, I want to talk about university-based money for first-generation students. This is the primary area that I personally have seen it applied. This is where universities, based on the admissions process, will typically ask students, hey, what kind of education do your parents have? What kind of education do your siblings have? And then that can be used in creating their financial aid package. So if they are technically a first-generation student, then they should receive any money that is for that reason. Now, this is where if you have a student that might meet this criteria, I absolutely would double check this because sometimes schools might overlook it and not give your student the award. Now, one example is Florida International University. They offer first generation scholarships for students whose parents or legal guardians do not have a 4-year bachelor's degree. But in this case, students who have siblings that have attended or graduated from other universities, they're still eligible. So in this case, the siblings do not knock them out of the running. Another one is University of South Carolina, my alma mater. First generation scholarship that begins at $4,500 at the time of recording this, but can go all the way up to full tuition and technology fee. So that can knock off 5 figures from a bill. Now, specifically for University of South Carolina, they do have requirements for income level, for being full-time. They have to submit FAFSA. And actually, I will say that pretty much all of this would require a student to submit FAFSA. So that is why FAFSA is so important. Now, if you have questions about FAFSA, we have an entire playlist of strategies on how to submit it correctly, but also strategies on how to really affect that income level so that it can make your student eligible for more money. So we'll link to that in the description below. Now, another point here is that not only will your student be considered for scholarships in this area upon admissions, but you should also have your student go to the financial aid department once they're enrolled and ask them if they have anything else. They might have additional scholarships that your student can actually apply for versus just being considered upon admissions that might be geared towards first generation. So we want to make sure that we look into all the different departments that we could possibly get money from. Now, the other thing I mentioned earlier is that sometimes this goes beyond monetary assistance. So, for example, University of South Carolina, not only did first-generation students receive money, but they also received additional support. So that can look completely different at every university, but this is a great resource to take advantage of. In fact, I almost find it as valuable as the monetary benefit because it greatly increases the chances that your student will actually complete that 4-year degree, which of course can turn into so much money in the long term. Now, in my opinion, of course, you want to tackle the university money first. That is one of the most important places to begin and build that solid foundation. But where the big money can be, where the sky is the limit, is with private scholarships or outside scholarships. This is my bread and butter. This is how I primarily paid for my education because I didn't get much from the university. So if that's the case with your student, hang in there because there are other opportunities beyond what the school offers. So with these private and outside scholarships, they can be given for many different reasons, not just being first generation, but being first generation is certainly one category that students can look into. And the beautiful thing about this is that they can continue applying every single year while they're in college. So this can actually bring in more and more money looking up scholarships, outside scholarships, for this category specifically. Now, if you want very specific steps on how to find legitimate scholarships for this category and other categories, then I have a free training you won't want to miss. You can go to thescholarshipsystem.com/free training to register, or you can find the link in the description after this video. But in there, I will show exactly how to use Google to uncover the sources of these first generation scholarships, but also so many more. Now, just to give you some specific examples of first generation scholarships, one in particular is a company that all of us know, and that is Coca-Cola. So they have renewable awards, which means that they would, if they receive the scholarship, they get it all 4 years, up to $5,000 at the time of recording this. So that is a huge benefit. Another one is First Generation Civil Rights Fellowship Program, so First Gen, and this is actually more geared towards a summer program for undergraduate students who they are first generation and they want to pursue social justice. So this is another example where sometimes it goes beyond monetary benefits for students that are the first ones to head to college. So those are two major organizations that give out benefits for first generation students, but there are so many smaller organizations as well that have opportunities. So again, this is why you want to have your student pursue outside or private scholarships beyond what the university offers. Now, after this video, we also have a blog post with our ultimate list of scholarships for first generation students. So we've already built a list for students. That does not mean you don't want to do the searching on your own, but it is a great place to start. So we will include the link to that as well as the free training in the description. Now again, in addition to first generation scholarships, there are plenty of scholarships out there for so many different criteria. So if you heard this, if you're listening and you're thinking, oh man, I've already received a 4-year degree, so I don't think my student's eligible for this, or maybe you received an associate's degree and that knocked your student out of the running at their university, that's okay, because they can still look for other more broader requirements for first generation scholarships. But they can also look for scholarships outside of the university for so many different things, like their hobbies, their passions, their career path, characteristics. There's so many different topics that students can get scholarships for. And again, that's something I cover in that free training. But my point is that first generation, it's just one option. So if you don't happen to get any luck here, there's plenty of money out there that your student can pursue as well. Okay, now again, don't forget to take advantage of that free training and make sure you hit subscribe, because we cover a new strategy every week that you can combine with these first generation scholarships. I hope to see you next week.